Now, personally, I'm a big fan of using distortion type plugins on percussive elements. I think they sound great. I also think they're very useful for clipping the sound. Therefore, you're able to get it louder later on in the mix. Now, Dirt is more of a classic distortion style stomp box. What's interesting about Dirt is that you have two effects in parallel. Well, in series here. Actually, it depends how you want to set them up. So A to B means you've got this one first and then this one second. So sequential, then you can have it the other way. And then you can actually have them in parallel and then you blend between the two, as you can see here. So quite a unique distortion pedal. And there are some quite obvious style parameters here. We've got drive, of course. And then this thing here, which hides nicely, is actually the type of distortion type 1, 2, and 3. So going from quite subtle to quite obvious. So this is more of a gentle saturation, whereas this creates some overtones. Then we have from dry to wet. Now, it's not quite as simple as dry to wet. We have from dry to saturated all the way to fold. So rather than clipping the signal, the wave folds on itself, which is actually a much more interesting style effect. Bias on the left-hand corner here introduces even harmonics, which can make the sound feel less hollow if you add too much distortion. And then tilt is basically, think of it like a sort of bandpass filter. It'll focus more on the high frequencies or the low frequencies, depending on where you tilt it to. I've changed it from A to B. I'm going to make sure that this is actually not doing anything at all because we're just going to focus on one side at a time. If you do find your signal getting too loud, there is an effects trim just here and you can pull that down. Notice the darker tones that come in on setting number 3. So number 1, quite nice, quite subtle. Number 2, more of a distorted effect. And number 3, much, much darker tones, which sound quite nice, but I think I'm going to go with number 2 for now. The other thing that I've done is I've devised my snare onto 2 channels. And my reason for this was this snare actually plays at the same time as this kick here. So I wanted a snare that was going to be lighter, so increase the tilt like so. Whereas with the other snare that's not playing when any of the kicks are playing, I'm going to adjust that separately. I'm going to give it a separate effect. So what I'll do is take this Dirt, Command C to copy it. Let's put it just on this channel here. And then let's open a new Dirt for this other snare here. Now you'll see what I mean. Let me play the kick and snare together. So it's important to me not to have really any low frequencies on this snare here because otherwise it's going to conflict too much with the kick. Okay, let's make this bigger again, just like so. And let's start affecting this snare over here. I'll shorten the loop. So I really like where it's at. I just think that I'd like some of the punch back from the snare as well. Okay, let's play all of the drums now with that other snare with the different Dirt effects. So don't feel limited to just using one. Again, I'm trying something different here. I'm trying to encourage you to be a bit more wild, be a bit more experimental when applying effects like these, rather than just throwing them on and leaving them like so. What's amazing is, even just with a kick and snare and these different effects, there's this real push and pull feel throughout the entire sequence. This, even though we're just focusing on a 2-bar loop.